I'm going to pass it to Bob Hill, our head of school, and I'm so glad to have everybody here.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks. Can you hear me all right? Great. I would like to echo Chris's welcome this evening or this morning or any time zone in between. It's great to have this collection of folks here tonight, just as Chris said. I would be lying if I didn't tell you that these last few months have been something for an adventure for all of us, I suspect. But I have to think that those of us in the school business, and whether those are little kids or big kids, public schools or private schools, college kids or elementary school kids, we've faced historic challenges, and I think we've overcome. Them. Never before have schools faced the kinds of issues that we faced amid such changing amounts of information, seemingly day by day. It's been like a giant end-of-year exam. So students who want to get back at their teachers, consider that box checked. We've passed the test. I want to let everyone know here that all summer long, the senior administrative team of the school has been working on all the details that you read about. And personally, I've been in weekly meetings with a group of heads of school, including schools like Pomfret and Berkshire and Millbrook, Canterbury. This might be new information for those of you on the phone on this Zoom call, but the Frederick Gun School, formerly called Gunnery, they went through a name change just recently. Westminster School, and I've had other phone calls with heads of school at much larger schools like Milton and Deerfield, and all of which is to say that the collaboration among our institutions has been amazing, and it's shown us all that we've brought the best possible thinking to these uncharted challenges presented by the coronavirus. I just want to reassure everyone that the Williston reopening plan that you read was designed with two principles in mind. And those two principles are the safety of our community, our students and our adults, and then the carrying forth of our educational mission. So those were the two things that we were keenly focused on, two ideals we were keenly focused on the entire time. So tonight's forum is designed to help you better understand the Williston reopening plan, and we're eager to have you back on campus. I have great faith in the ability of our students and families to adhere to the safety measures necessary to mitigate the risk of the coronavirus, and I have even greater faith that the spirit of Williston, which is all about our community of adults and students, will easily shine through masks and 6 feet of social distancing. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to David Korikoski, and we'll get into the meat of the issues tonight. And again, welcome all your questions, and really looking forward to the next hour or so.
Thanks, Bob, and thanks everyone for being here. I'm going to put my email into the chat box so everyone can have it, and you can email me with any questions you have during or after the after the webinar. But first, I'm going to cover some items concerning testing and quarantines, and then I'll be back later on in the presentation to talk more about daily life on campus. Hopefully, everyone has had a chance to see the Williston Compact that we will be asking all members of the community, faculty, staff, and students to agree to and to sign. As with everything we're doing, the safety of our school community can only be realized if we all commit to working together and to follow simple guidelines to keep everyone healthy. One item to pay special attention to deals with the first 3 weeks of school, the dates from September 1st to September 21st. It will be critically important that we start the year in the best way possible, so we're being a bit restrictive during these 3 weeks. That being said, we are going to continue to evaluate everything and to make adjustments as we move along. We're trying to control as many of the controllables as we can. We have confidence that if everyone does their part during the opening of school, we'll be able to lift these restrictions after the first 3 weeks as we continue to coordinate with our medical staff and follow state and local guidance. I've already had a few questions come through about the safer at home guidelines, and I wanted to make a couple of important distinctions here. We are strongly encouraging everyone to follow these guidelines for the 14 days prior to coming to campus. This will obviously not be possible for those who are traveling to campus by public transportation, because as soon as you get on a plane or on a bus, you'll no longer be following the guidelines. But for everyone who can, it certainly is best practices. For anyone who arrives via public transportation, you will need to quarantine for approximately 5 days, as we need 2 negative tests before anyone can start classes in person. I'll talk more about that in a minute. I just wanted to mention here that we want to be as welcoming as possible while maintaining very high standards for safety. We're all in this together. We want each of you to make the best choices for your individual families. You can each make the choice to start online, start in person. Either way, we are going to work with you every step of the way to make it the best experience possible. Going back to the tests, everyone needs to have 2 negative tests before they can be in person for classes and other activities. We have a system in place to test on campus, and more details about that process can be found on the website. Ultimately, we're asking everyone to be extremely vigilant as you get close to the date you're arriving to campus. Once you take the first test, we ask that you strictly adhere to the Safer at Home guidelines if you're a day student or a local boarder. If you're a boarder and you're on campus, you will quarantine in your room until you take the second test 72 hours later. Once that test is negative as well, you'll be free to engage across campus and all the things that we offer. My office will post more detailed information on the FAQ section of the website next week about exactly what the quarantine in those dorms would look like. I've also received a few questions about how frequently we'll be testing students in adult community on campus. We have the ability to do mass testing, so our current plan is to test a percentage of the campus population each week during the first 3 weeks of school. We'll continue to evaluate after those 3 weeks, and our testing protocols will evolve as necessary and as advised. I've also seen some questions about, at what level we would be closing campus in terms of the number of infections. And that answer is far more complicated than I can answer here. But we will be in contact with the local and our state boards of health as we evaluate any situation, and we will certainly follow all of their guidance as well as the guidance of our on-staff medical team. I think that's it for right now about the testing. I want to thank you for your attention, and I'll be back in a little while to talk about daily life at the school. Again, if you have specific granular questions, I'm happy to answer any of those. I'll put my specific email in the chat box. And I'll now turn it over to our Assistant Head of School, Miss Ann Pickrell.
Thanks a lot, David. Welcome, everyone. Good evening, good morning. I know we've got people tuning in from all areas, local and far, far away. So we're really excited to have you all here with us. And as both Mr. Dietrich and Mr. Hill said, less than a month from now, we look forward to welcoming you all back to campus. For us, it's really going to be a culmination of lots of efforts from every corner of the school. So it's really exciting. As I start my 39th year at Williston, this past summer has not been anything like we all expected the summers to be. So we hope that the upcoming year will be one that will be safe, as well as in person for you if you're able to be on campus. The reminders that I'm going to chat about tonight are arrivals, formerly called welcome days. Our safe and staggered arrival is really in mind for you to all have that experience that will set us up for a great start to the academic year. Students who are arriving via public transportation, as Mr. Korkowski mentioned, buses, trains, planes, have the opportunity to arrive on campus early to do quarantine. I will speak about that in a moment. Anyone coming from outside of New England, except with the exception of Rhode Island, New Jersey, and New York, without a negative PRC test, can come to campus to self-quarantine beginning August 12th to August 16th. If you are planning to take advantage of this opportunity, we encourage you to contact Mrs. Motika right away in the dean's office, as well as complete your arrival form in Veracross. All students and parents have access to the arrival form. It's important that you complete that. At the moment, we have 31 students who have decided to come early during that time. Mrs. Motika is also the person who can help you arrange any airport transfers that you might need, but it's important to be in touch with her in advance, and she is in her office daily and answering her emails, so please be in touch with her. Students arriving for that early self-quarantine time will move directly into their dorm rooms and take an antigen test while quarantining under faculty supervision. Those students will be able to get outside daily, get exercise, walk to the Birch Dining Commons to pick up meals, and all packages that have been mailed to you in advance, along with your welcome bag, will be in your room when you arrive. I know every year people like to see what the welcome bag looks like, so we have these great bags for you. Your Surface will be there with you. And this year, with the welcome bag, we also will be giving everybody an issued Williston mask. You'll hear a little bit more about mask wearing later. Mrs. Hannigan in the campus store has lots of different styles as well. If you're thinking about the repertoire of masks that you'll have, you'll definitely all receive one of these in your welcome bag, but there are many other styles that are out there that you can check out in the campus store. Mr. Dietrich was just holding one up there, so and Mr. McCullough's got one too. So those will be in your room. Any of you that had boomerang storage, those boomerang boxes will be in your rooms when you arrive, as well as any things that you may have ordered to arrive at school. Those will all be in your room as well. So that's the information for students who are arriving early. If you have any questions about that, feel free to be in touch with me, with Mrs. Motika, or with Mr. Korkowski. Students who are arriving later in August will be able to sign up in your Veracross portal for the PCR testing time, and as appropriate for boarding students, a 90-minute window to move into your room. Very similar for those of you that are returning students to the process that we had in the spring that worked very well. So within your portal in Veracross, all students that are arriving later than the self-quarantine time will sign up for two things. One, if you are arriving first on campus, your first PCR test, those will be administered on campus beginning the week of August 24th. Secondly, if you are a boarding student, you will sign up for a slot to move into your dormitory. This is part of the staggered and safe arrival. We don't want everyone arriving at the same time. We want to make sure that moving into the dorm, you have sufficient time to do that, but that it will be socially distant. So it's important to check your Veracross portal for that information. We want, as Mr. Korkowski mentioned, we want each student to have 2 PCR tests within 72 hours prior to the start of classes on September 1. So those will be organized through health and wellness. Every student, every faculty member, every staff member will undergo testing. As Mr. Korkowski mentioned, you will be quarantined until the second test is negative, and you'll move on from there to get involved with activities. The reopening plan has all of the details of that testing the week of August 24th. Student leaders will arrive on the 28th, have their testing, get involved, new boarding students on the 29th, and returning students on the 30th. Day students, those that are within driving distance as boarding students, will be able to come to campus earlier that week, take their first test, and then receive their arrival bag at that time. Monday, August 31, and this is a change from our original revised schedule. Monday, August 31st will be set aside for middle and upper school orientation programs, as well as technology orientations. Those details will be emailed to you later in August. So I would urge all of you, day students, boarding students, middle school students, check your schedules, be looking at Veracross in your portals. Let us know your arrival plans so that we'll be ready to accommodate you. The safe and staggered reopening of the school year is imperative so that everyone will have what they need to be accomplished and ready in the classroom on September 1. And that is less than a month away from yesterday. So we look forward to welcoming you and having you back on campus. I urge you, if you have any questions, to reach out to this group of panelists. And thanks again for spending your time with us. And I am going to turn it over to Mr. McCullough, who's the CFO of Williston.
Great. Thank you, Ann, and welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. What I'd like to do, if I could, is to maybe give everyone a quick update on some of the major changes we've made on campus this summer. I want to emphasize to everyone that we've taken the steps needed to respond to having school ready for everyone. We've taken it very seriously. We've made some pretty significant investments. We've invested well over $1 million in a number of areas on campus to be ready to open school as we start to proceed and get everyone ready for this September. I'd like to touch on a few of the areas that we've made some changes, and certainly I think you'll see that a lot of the work and activities from the physical plant staff have been quite outstanding, actually, and the dining staff. First, regarding classrooms, I think what we've done, just to give you some idea of some of the steps we've taken, we've gone through each and every classroom that we have on campus, and we've reduced the number of desks, and we've set up the proper distancing and spacing in those desks, and we're actually putting notches on the floor so that those desks will have a particular spot based on the measurements that we've done for each of the classrooms. We've created alternative classroom spaces and spaces that weren't classrooms. In some cases, we've unconventional places like in the gym, where we wanted to create some spaces that are a little larger. We've been able to create classroom spaces that during the day, the morning into the afternoon, we were able to use for classroom spaces. So to give you some idea of some of the creativity that's gone into trying to prepare to have classes back on campus, and we can allow for the appropriate distancing. And certainly in labs, and now we are looking at some of the art studios. We're putting partitions up where where it's necessary. If somebody's going to be working at a lab location, we want to make sure that there's a partition there for that will separate the students from each other. So a lot of work has been done in that area. And finally, we're looking at, and in some cases already in the process of upgrading some of the ventilation systems in some of the buildings. That work is underway starting right now, and some of that work is going to be, and it's just really a case of, we just want to make sure it's moving the air at the level that we would like. Regarding some of the entrances and exits to the buildings, we want to make sure that we're reorganizing entrances and exits so that we can control the flow in and out of the buildings, so that we can honor appropriate distancing as well. So there'll be a lot of signs up and stanchions to dictate what door you go into a building, what building you go out, and what will be the traffic flow in a particular building. Another area that I think would be important to emphasize is the area of dormitories. Certainly we're benefiting from the fact that we're just opening Emily Vincent House, which is, we're getting our certificate of occupancy for the full building tomorrow. We're very excited about that. But also we felt it was important to, some of the buildings that we were, Emily Vincent House was going to replace in terms of capacity for students, we've left some of those dormitories open, and it was just done to create some additional capacity and space. So we've left Hathaway dorm open and Conant dormitory open as well, to just in an effort to reduce density of the living spaces. A couple of other things in the physical plant area that would be worth mentioning are the just simple things like how we handle packages. We've purchased some equipment where we will allow students to pick up their packages. That's an enormous task we have on campus now, managing all the Amazon packages that come in every day. So we've ended up purchasing a piece of equipment so we can get these packages to the students in a touchless way. Certainly the machine it's interesting. They get a text message and they can go and pick up their package when they need to. Another area that we're looking at, and I think we're going to have success in doing so, is installing some tents on campus. Right now, I think we're probably going to install 3, one in the main quad, one over near the middle school, and one down at the athletic center. So, and we're in the process of trying to get that all set up right now. So that's just another opportunity to be able to create some space, some outdoor, spaces that are protected and give people an opportunity to space out some more. Regarding dining, I think it's important for everyone to know that we've spent a lot of time on dining, making sure that we can keep the density down in the Birch Dining Commons. We've eliminated a number of seats there and spread the tables out. We've put up partitions on all the tables. But we've also created a new dining area in the Reed Center, and we've also purchased a food truck. So the food truck is on the back of the Reed Center and will allow us to, again, spread out the capacity for particularly for lunch, which is one of the most complicated meals of the day for the school. But certainly for, we're finding that just having that extra space and that extra location is making the management of the numbers of people at each of those locations that much easier. So a nice change there we're feeling. We've also purchased a number of picnic tables, just so if people are choosing to eat outside, they can do that as well. Again, all those tables have partitions on them, so everybody will be safely separated while they're dining. Another area that I think would be important to point out is our changes in the housekeeping protocols. We have upgraded and changed just about everything we do regarding housekeeping, and frequency of times the places are cleaned. This would be campus bathrooms, classrooms, dorm bathrooms, the fitness center, dining areas, common spaces on campus. We've purchased 6 electrostatic disinfecting sprayers, which are used. You may have seen pictures of what they use in airports and airlines. We're using those. We're going to be using those daily on many parts of campus. And we've also have now a KVAC high pressure cleaning system for showers and fitness and locker rooms and areas like that. And this is a very important tool for us to use to keep the areas clean and safe each and every day. So nice changes there. Our housekeeping staff is working hard to implement all these changes. We also hired a housekeeping contractor just to increase the number of people on campus who are going to be doing this work. Finally, we have a mountain of supplies that we've just been accumulating over the last few months, from disinfectant wipes to antiseptic wipes to many of the other pieces of tools that the housekeeping staff is going to need. I would just say that the plant staff and the dining staff have been spectacular to work with this summer. I think the work that they've done and taken on is all with an interest in getting ready for school and really very excitedly welcoming the students back. So I think that I tried to give you this summary just to touch on some of the key areas. A lot more work has been done, but I think this will give you a good flavor of some of the efforts that have been put forth this summer. With that, I would like to turn it over to Kim Avelti, and I'm sure Kim will have some more exciting news for you.
Thanks, Chuck. Great to see lots of you here. It's good to see those of you who are typing into the chat, and I'm so excited to have everyone back with us, whether it be in person or online. So I'll be covering a couple things related to academics. I put my email and Mr. Talea's email into the chat window. If you have specific questions about your schedule, your lunch schedule, etc., you can send those directly to us, so we can hit you back a little bit, just let you know exactly what's going on with you. But I'll give some more general responses to some questions that we've been getting. I'll be talking to you about the schedule, online learning, and then also our classroom spaces. So to start, I wanted to share with you our new daily schedule. This has been on the web for some time now, but I just wanted to talk through some of the details. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you so you can see that. So our new daily schedule has a few features that I wanted to point out. First, we have fewer classes that happen per day, and they meet for a longer period of time. We did this to reduce the number of transitions and the number of contact groups our students see each day. We've also lengthened the passing time. So we previously had 10 minutes in between classes. We now have 15. So this will allow our students and teachers to execute passing and cleaning protocols. As Mr. McCullough said, we'll be following specific protocols to move between classes, and that may take just a little bit longer. We also, as Mr. McCullough said, have established a different dining system. So we'll be using more lunch periods than we've had in the past. Just to give you a really sort of basic overview of how lunch is going to work. If you're free during the period before or during lunch, you'll eat during your free. Otherwise, you'll be split up by department, just like we have in the past. I'll be sending communication to each student to let them know when to expect to eat lunch every day. That's not in your Veracross right now, but you'll be hearing from the academic office soon with your specific lunch schedule. So you'll be eating in smaller lunch groups, which will be great, and you'll be eating in different locations, which should be fun. We also made sure to leave time for community life. So you'll be still meeting with your advisory, and then you'll also have the opportunity for things like virtual assemblies that you would watch together with your advisory as well. To go on to online learning while still looking at the schedule here, we've received some really great questions from families who are pretty far away from us and may need to start online. So I just wanted to show what it might look like if you're someone who's, for example, in Beijing and we're starting classes online. Our attendance policy for everyone online is that you'll be expected to come to classes live with us and meeting with your teacher and the students in your class during the periods that would meet from your local time between 7 a.m. and 11:30 p.m. So for example, if you were in Beijing and you were 12 hours ahead, you would be expected to come to the periods within this window. If you look closely here, you'll notice that all of the periods meet an almost equal number of times during that those 2 morning blocks. So it gives everybody an opportunity to meet synchronously together quite frequently. And this represents more than half of the meeting time that our students are together with their teachers. It's very important to us that all of our students are able to see one another and see their teacher live. For students who will not be able to make it to every single period because they're sleeping and we want them to sleep, we don't want anybody to be in classes in the middle of the night, they'll be working with their teacher to fill in those blanks. It could be watching a recording of what was happening in class, but it might not be. It really depends on the content of the class. So to move on from the schedule a little bit, a question that I've also been getting is about grading. Some of you who were with us last year will remember that in the spring we went to a pass-fail system. We'll be going back to numeric grading for everybody, even those students who are with us online. And then to talk a little bit about our classroom spaces, I am just thrilled at the work that we've been doing this summer, particularly physical plant, to get ourselves ready for the fall. We're extremely lucky at Williston that we're able to offer the resources to have a seat for every student in every class every single day. We know that a lot of schools are not able to provide that, but we've been able to do that. In order to accomplish that, we've repurposed some spaces. So on your daily schedule, you may see that you have a class in the art gallery, for example, or on the gym floor. So we've been working with technology and, again, physical plant to make sure that all of those spaces are outfitted with everything that teachers need to be successful, like projectors, whiteboards, etc. And finally, just to give you a little more info, as Mr. McCullough said, all of the desks will be spaced out 6 feet apart. So, even though the guidelines in Massachusetts allowed them to be closer than that, we felt most comfortable keeping them at the 6-foot distance. And our students and faculty will all be wearing masks during the class periods. Again, if you have any specific questions about your situation, you are always welcome to call me or Mr. Talea, and we're happy to talk through your classes or about any other academic questions you have. And with that, I will turn it back over to Mr. Gorgowski.
Thanks, Kim. There's been a couple of questions that have come through about my previous comments about testing. So I figure I'll tackle a few of those right now, and then I'll get into some other specifics about daily life. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts requires either a 14-day quarantine or a negative PCR test before you come into the state. We're adopting the same guidance and adding a requirement for a second negative test. We're also offering students to do their quarantine here, and we're also offering to do both tests for you if you're close enough to campus to do that. So basically, on your arrival, you need to come with a negative PCR test. We will then test you again when you get here, and those test results will be ready in about 24 hours. However, you want to get the however you want to get the first test is really up to you. But if you come to campus without the first test, you will need to quarantine for about 5 days while we get 2 tests done for you. I'm hoping that's a little clearer. And if not, again, I'm more than happy to have private conversations with anyone, or I can try it a third time at the end. But in terms of daily life at the school, I just wanted to offer a few thoughts. We always start the year emphasizing our core tenets of respect for self and others, responsibility and trust, and honesty and integrity. These concepts have perhaps never been more important than they are this year. Our plan represents a cautious approach to repopulating the school and we've established stricter limits for the first 3 weeks to give us the best possible chance for a safe reopening while mitigating as many risks as possible. Essential to our plan is daily observation and an active commitment to respecting ourselves, both as individuals and as a part of the larger Williston and East Hampton communities. To that end, we must all make a commitment to each other that we will wear our masks, we will practice safe social distancing, and we will keep ourselves and the areas we come into contact clean. We will also be asking students, faculty, and staff to download and use a contact tracing app, which will run in the background of your phones. You will not need to update your locations while you're on campus. I know everyone will be excited about that, but you must have the app installed and running in the background. It works by monitoring proximity by Bluetooth, and it's the same app that that a number of major colleges and businesses in the United States are currently using. It will only work, however, while inside of our established campus boundaries. There's a geofence around our area that we will have in place. But this is all being done so that in the event that there is a positive case on campus, we will be able to contact trace with a high degree of reliability. It's clear to me that our community is looking forward to the opportunity to be back together again. The heart of Williston is in the relationships we build while on campus. We want to be able to make it a great experience, even in challenging times. We've worked hard to make sure that there are still areas on campus for day students and boarders to hang out and safely congregate while maintaining social distancing, but it will certainly feel different. I should mention the Williston Community Compact again here. This is a key document for us, and we will be relying on students, faculty, and staff to take these protocols very seriously, whether they are on or off campus. Day students while off campus, day faculty while off campus will need to be vigilant, but all of the same protections and protocols, just like when they are on campus. Speaking of, you may have noted that we're starting the school year limiting breakfast and dinner to boarding students only, with the exception of day students who have specific commitments which require them to be on campus during that time. We hope this will be a temporary measure, but we need to do all that we can to de-densify the most crowded areas on campus and allow for social distancing. Lunch and dinners will be scheduled into time slots, and all students will need to pay special attention to their assigned period. Once again, we're all on this together. Faculty will have assigned meal times as well. And as I said, we hope to be able to ease this restriction as the year progresses. And if that's possible, we will certainly be in contact as soon as we can. The final major item I wanted to cover in this is about housing and advisor assignments. I know lots of students out there have been waiting for this, and parents. We've spent an incredible amount of time working to de-densify dorms, create new singles, spread students out as much as possible across campus. I expect the assignments will be posted in Veracross by the end of the day tomorrow, Thursday. Once they're posted, please contact me directly with any comments, questions, concerns, congratulations, thank yous. I'll take whatever you have. And just, let me know if there's any issues that come up. So I know I've thrown a lot out at everyone tonight, and I know it's a lot to digest. I just want to take a minute to reiterate how excited we are to welcome you all back onto campus. We've spent hundreds of hours planning for our opening, and we're thrilled that the date is fast approaching. We've all become accustomed to pivoting based on new scientific information, and we will continue to do so as we work with all of you to make this a truly incredible year. I'm sure there are lots of questions, and I'm happy to answer any that you have at the end. But again, please email me directly if you have very specific questions. I'll be happy to help you out in any way that I can. So thanks again, and I'll now turn it over to our director of the middle school, Jen Fulcher.
Thanks, Dave. Super appreciate it. Welcome, new and returning Wildcats. I'm very excited. Christy Drick, hi. We're excited to be here. All of this great information that my colleagues have been sharing, wonderful colleagues, I should say, have been sharing about safely repopulating the campus applies to grades 7 through 12. But I wanted to take a moment to share some specific things about the middle school, and I take any moment to say hello to incoming 7th and 8th graders, and to all the former middle schoolers out there. May it be the best year ever in the upper school. I miss you already. We've been very busy in the middle school. Mr. McCullough talked about this a little bit in terms of classroom space, but we have been preparing for your return to create unbelievably terrific and safe learning spaces. For instance, there's all new furniture in the science room and it's been completely reconfigured. The assembly room has been repurposed into an incredible classroom that is going to be used throughout the day. And we have even gone as far as to knock 2 walls down in the middle school. I made a request to Mr. McCullough to let me do it. He said no. But anyway, it happened anyway. And we have created 1 large classroom upstairs and 1 large classroom downstairs, even with fancy new carpet. We also reconfigured the technology so that everything the teacher writes on OneNote will be projected to 2 big, large whiteboards, so every kid will have close proximity to all the notes and all that's going on in class. We are super excited to be able to provide and use these incredibly safe, terrific learning spaces. It's been a very, very busy summer around the school and particularly in the middle school. Lunch, I have to touch on lunch because there's not a 7th or 8th grader out there thinking about where will I eat lunch and what is happening this culture. It's my favorite committee because I never miss a meal. And we have created different lunch periods. They're staggered, so all of the middle schoolers will be able to safely go get their food, and we're using both indoor and outdoor spaces for them to be able to safely enjoy their wonderful Sage meal. So don't worry, that is locked and in place, my friends. A note about the afternoon program. My friend Mr. Conroy will be talking next to go over the details about our afternoon program, but I do want to remind middle schoolers and let you know if you haven't read the email that the afternoon program has always been optional for 7th graders. For this year, it will also be optional for 8th graders. We welcome and encourage every middle schooler to get involved in our afternoon program, but we absolutely understand that if families would like to pick up their child right after classes are done, that is absolutely fine. It will be a choice that every family can make in terms of what is best for each individual family. We're also working hard to use our indoor and outdoor spaces to create community time and connection, to use technology to have bigger assemblies and then break down into smaller groups. We know that together we're stronger, and we know that building community is absolutely central to our mission and one of the things that we cherish most. I can't wait to hear student voices in this building. There's been hammers, new carpet being laid, all this excitement, but this building was built for you guys, and I miss you, and I've missed you all since March. We are fully committed to safety and providing the very best learning experience possible, both in person and if you need to be online. Please reach out to me if you have any middle school specific questions. I love email, I love phone, I love Zoom. I want to ensure you that I'll be with you every step of the way. I understand all the questions, the thoughts, the excitement and the anxiety that comes with this. And my door is always open and my Zoom camera is always on. I will do everything in my power to make your transition to campus the very best it can be. I love this community and our kids, and I can't wait to welcome you all back. Our Williston family is our strength, my friends, and what makes us stronger. And I have full faith that we will come together to make this the safest and best learning community that any of us could be part of. So I can't wait to see you soon. And thanks for enjoying a little time together tonight. I appreciate it very much. And with that, I'm passing it to my terrific friend, Mr. Conroy.
Great. Thank you, Jen. And thanks to all the families and students for joining us tonight. I wanted to just share a few details just about our afternoon athletic program, in addition to some of the thoughts that are in the reopening plan. The afternoon program will actually begin on the very first day of school for all students on September 1st. So we're not having the traditional pre-season that we normally would have. I do want to say that for all day students this year, to include middle schoolers, as Ms. Fulcher said, we will have optional involvement this fall only as we sort of move forward. The only thing we would ask is that if you choose not to participate this fall, that you head home after your last academic obligation on campus. For the competitive athletic program, we will follow a phased approach with practices the first 5 weeks of the fall with safeguards specific to each sport. I'm currently working with a cohort of local prep school athletic directors on producing a new schedule that will hopefully resume some form of competition in October. To minimize exposure, our plan is when possible, that 2 schools will compete as many sports as possible within the same week. Some of the schools that I'm talking with are the local schools: Deerfield, Northfield, Mount Hermon, Wilbraham, Munson, Berkshire, and Suffield, just down the road. Schools are also establishing a common set of guidelines to follow, to include locker room use, a spectator policy, sanitation, and other topics related to making it a safe experience for all the athletes. I did see a question related to spectators, and I will just say that while I haven't discussed that in detail with athletic directors, the common thinking at this point is that all home contests, away contests will really not be open to the visiting teams, but home contests, we will allow families to sort of attend those events. It's a lot safer outside than inside, as long as we're social distancing and wearing masks. So I do expect at home contests, we will be able to have spectators. One of the questions is obviously indoor events. So that's just stay tuned for more guidelines there. Varsity programs are being designed, as usual, with a high level of sport training, strength training, and opportunities to provide college exposure with extensive film work. In fact, this year, more than ever, I expect it will be live streaming more practices as we're sort of getting information out to college coaches regarding our college aspiring athletes. While maintaining the integrity of the fall program is important, there will also be opportunities this fall to train in winter and spring sports. NEPSAC has sort of decided to waive the policy of out-of-season training, so our coaches will have more opportunities to work with their winter and spring athletes this fall. The daily schedule is also being designed, as it is during the academic day, to respond to recommendations that will reduce the density in on-campus spaces such as locker rooms, our training rooms, and our fitness center. Lower level sports, JV sports, third sports, et cetera, will look to strike a balance between maintaining the integrity of the fall sport experience with a variety of other activities to vary the experience and keep it fresh and stimulating for all. Unfortunately, the athletic directors have made a decision to not have lower level games this fall, and hoping to resume them later in the year. And other afternoon program activities to include the fine and performing arts, the hurdles of safely continuing school programs are less daunting, though we will carefully follow Centers of Disease Control and Prevention and local government guidelines. So I hope this information has been helpful. I know I speak for all the coaches in saying how incredibly excited we are to work with your children this fall. It's been a long few months without athletics for this athletic director. So go Wildcats. And at this point, I'd love to turn it over back to Chris Dietrich.
All right, thank you, Mr. Conroy. So there are so many questions, and I apologize for I've tried to answer a lot of them throughout the program. So I know, and I know the other panelists have some as well. So I will touch on one, and we're gonna, as I said earlier, we're gonna try to do our best. Many of your questions, just so all of you are aware, many of your questions, if they're very specifically about your child or about specific things, we will answer them, but obviously we won't do those in the Zoom, but someone from the panel will be in touch with you. I know I've encouraged a couple of folks in some of your questions to reach out to me directly to have conversations, because they're just not appropriate questions to answer in a Zoom like this. I wanted to touch on one though that has been addressed, or that has been submitted tonight, but also some folks have called and asked. So many of our students, there are lots of different reasons for it, but many of our students we know are not going to be able to make it for the beginning of the school year. They're not going to be able to make it in person. In some cases, it's due to travel restrictions in their home countries. There's a variety of different reasons. And so we know already that, as it's already been mentioned tonight, that there are going to be some of our students who are going to begin the year online. Some folks have asked whether I think there's an understanding that that's going to be happening with folks that can't make it from different countries, but some have asked because they're as a family, they have some concerns about just their own feelings about having their children attend classes in person. What I would say and some folks have asked is starting the school year online for a student an option for families? The answer is yes. What we would want to do though is if families are considering that for whatever reason, in some cases it has to do with involvement in outside activities that they want to try to be able to continue with in the beginning of the year and not be in a position where they're not going to be able to do those for those first 3 weeks of school or first few weeks of school. In some cases it has to do with just some anxiety about coming to start the year in person. Those are all understandable reasons, and we want to work with you individually. So I get what I would say to everyone who is in that position that's considering that, please get in touch with us, and we will be able to work with you to kind of articulate what the different possibilities will be. There are going to be some students who we know are going to begin the school year online and likely won't be able to join us until well into the school year. There are going to be some whose plan now is going to be to start the school year online, but then join us here in person very soon after the beginning of the year for a variety of different reasons. So we want to work with you on what those reasons are and help you to understand what the implications of making that decision are. So I would just say that if you are in that position, obviously we're not going to be able to talk to you specifically individually tonight, but we want to work with you on that. So I would say that you can get in touch with us here at the school. I've already had a couple of conversations. I know Ann Pickerel has had many conversations with many of you here tonight. We've had conversations with families about that, and we're going to be in a position to help you to decide what is the best situation for you, your child, you as a family, and we'll be able to detail what those decisions will mean with regard to how to begin that process and how to start the year properly. So the answer, that's a very long answer, but the answer is yes. A couple of folks have written that in, but we want to work with you on what exactly is going to be the best way for you to start the year and how to plan for that. So there are so many questions. I don't even know how to, let's see how to, I guess one of the, Coach K, I don't know if you want to try this one out, but one of the questions that's been asked in a couple of different ways is just around safer at home practices. I know we've all had conversations with families, particularly families of day students, and what exactly would constitute safer at home for them. One family or two different families have asked tonight that if they have a cohort now, a pod of families, maybe next door neighbors that they've been in close contact with now, would that mean that for the 2 weeks before they start the school year, would they have to stay strictly in their home, or could they continue the practices that they've been participating in for the last 3 or 4 months with that small pod? So I don't know if do you want to answer that, Dave, or do you want me to, or I'll
give it a shot. I mean, I think the most important thing to remember about the safer at home guidelines is, they come from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and they're really good guidelines for keeping yourself safe, right? They're simply there to make sure that you are at a very low risk for catching the virus, and that ultimately is good for us as a campus. I think the extension of that is, as we get closer and closer to the start of the school year, and especially when you're in between your 3 tests, right? We want to be as strict as possible, right? We want to make sure that you're getting your 2 clean tests, and then, moving forward, especially in those first 3 weeks, everyone is maintaining good safe practices and is, engaging in the Williston community as much as we can, but, avoiding high risk activities outside.
Great. I guess I could add to that, Dave, and just answer another question. So in the spirit of what Mr. Korokowski just said, some folks have asked about, will students be able to go into town and order food from restaurants and things like that. As Mr. Korokowski just noted, we are going to have stricter restrictions in place to begin the year so that we are able to really begin the whole year as a community safely. So there will be some restrictions on those kinds of activities for our students at the start of the year. Our hope and our plan is to do that well as a community, to do a good job of starting the year safely, and to make sure that we're mitigating as much risk as we can. And then as we get as we get through those first week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we are going to be constantly evaluating what's happening, and we're going to be able to make changes if things are progressing in the way that we want them to. So, so I think that also kind of goes. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Chris, I would just add to that, part of the reason we're having folks do 2 tests, right, is to basically be able to guarantee to everyone around, right, that the adults, that the students, that everyone that's here at Williston is COVID free, right? And, that we're a responsible member of the larger community around us, right? If you've gone through your quarantines or gotten your 2 tests and are going to classes in person and you want to walk up to Dunkin' Donuts or you want to go to Antonio's and get a slice of pizza, a couple of students 6 feet apart, social distancing, wearing your masks in town, just like every other resident of East Hampton is expected to do right now, you can do those things, right? Even in the first 3 weeks of classes, right? There are going to be restrictions about who can come on campus in terms of like delivery people and things like that. But you want to walk down to Dunkin' Donuts, get a cup of coffee and a bagel, go right ahead. Wear your mask, be apart, do those things, be smart, be safe. And, that's more than anything else, be responsible, be smart, be safe, protect yourself and protect us all, right? Because one person doing things out of bounds, right, brings everything else into jeopardy.
David, I'd just like to jump on the end of that great answer, and Mr. Dietrich's as well. If you think of it this way, I was watching the mayor of Atlanta, who's an impressive person, and they have a 10% positivity rate, and we have just under 2%, I think, here in Hampshire County. And the difference there is, she said, look, she was calling on the governor to close the bars so they can open the schools. And if you think about what you've done and practiced all summer long, or since March, to stay safe as a family, that's what we're asking. We're really asking with this social compact that we privilege Williston and the Williston community right now. And so if it means making sacrifices for that annual barbecue that you go to every summer in August with a large family gathering, you don't do that because we're privileging the start of the Williston school year. And the idea behind this 3 weeks is that we need time to road test all these procedures and policies that we've put in place. Remember, we're all making history here. There's something exciting about that. There's something daunting about that. But the fact is, we're all making history, and we want to preference and privilege the opening of the school year and make it happen as safely as we can. And then we can start to see how things unfold and go along here. So it's all about what's going on out there in the community. A lot of times folks think that Williston's holding all the cards and that we have control over everything. In fact, we don't have control over everything. And what is happening in the larger community of East Hampton and the state of Massachusetts is critically important as we go forward. So I just thought I'd point out that that piece of the larger puzzle as well.
Great. Thank you, Bob. So I know there are a lot of the questions I think right now are very specific that we haven't covered with these categories, are very specific to individuals. So I don't know that we've covered many of them, and some of them are very specific with regard to specific children in specific programs. So
so let me just say then, I think if most of the things are quite specific at this point, I haven't had a real chance to get through the Q&A. My name and email are in the chat box. They're, all over the website and places like that too. Feel free, shoot me an email. I'll either set up a phone call with you or I'll put you in contact with the right person. And, we will get every question that you guys have answered as quickly and effectively as we can. Doing too many questions as a committee of the whole might not make a whole lot of sense right now, but I am more than happy to spend as much time as we need to, either on the phone or on email. And, we'll do what has to get done.
We've also built a great frequently asked questions on our website, and we'll add many of these answers to our frequently asked questions for everybody.
And just so that Mr. Korokowski doesn't get overwhelmed, I know I hope everyone here knows that we are still very much the same Williston community that we've always been. And so some of you are going to be more comfortable contacting others on this panel. We are all here and available for you. So, it's great that Dave is willing to take all these questions, but I know some folks out there might be more comfortable contacting Mark Conroy or more comfortable contacting Jen Folger or me, so please feel free to contact the 8 faces here on the screen and the others that aren't here as well. The rest of the senior administration has been working all summer, and they're all very willing to help to answer these questions. So please feel free to contact the person. I do know that there are still a lot of questions here, but they're very specific in many cases to specific individual students. So, and individual cases, and we're more than happy to answer those, set up Zooms, talk on the phone. So yeah, Ms. Pickerel.
If I could just add, Mr. Dietrich, looking through some of the questions, I think there is an overall one that lots of folks are asking, and it's a umbrella type question. It's about the testing. The testing, you will get information about how to sign up on a specific day. For example, if you are a day student, someone asked about taking the SAT on the 29th of August. You'll need to do 2 tests and come on to campus. That will allow you to come on to campus and take the test before the start of class. If you are arriving international student and you have not been able to secure that test, you'll be tested on campus during that time. People are asking if they can quarantine in other locations. You may do that. You may arrive with 1 negative test and have your second test within that time frame. During that time frame, you will be quarantining in your dorm room until the second test is a negative test. And so that should help answer some of those questions. We did get one specifically about the test. The PCR test is a nasal test. So someone asked about that. So those are some general testing questions. But as Ms. Avelti pointed out, the FAQs have a lot of information in the plan. And if you haven't had a chance to go down on the FAQs, please try to do that. Be looking this Friday for another summer update from the communication office. There will be a lot of information not only about arrival, but many other details of the opening of school. So please keep reading your emails, is my suggestion.
And I would also just to add to that too, Ms. Pickle, a lot of you have asked about some specifics of the language that was in the letter. Just so you all are aware, we are meeting very frequently, and so as a senior administration, we're going to be meeting and looking through some of these questions and talking about them and talking about the conversations that we've had with many of you over the course of the last couple of days. So just know that they're just like everything with what's happened in the world in the last 6 months, we're going to be constantly updating things and changing things, and we're going to be communicating those changes to you. So all of you, many of you in conversations on the phone have raised some very salient points tonight in the questions. You've raised some others as well. So we're going to be taking all that into account, and any changes that we make, we're going to be communicating with you about them. So please don't feel as though we are reading your questions. It's just, there's a lot of them, and we are going to be collating all that and taking all that into account as we progress in the next couple of days even. So, all right. I think if there are others that folks want to answer, I think we're all set.
Chris, I'll take a broad swipe at a question that I think has come in a couple times, and then I'll just make some closing remarks and thank everybody again. But the broad question is there a threshold? Is there a head count, to use a bad term, I guess, of the number of positive cases that would automatically trigger Williston to change course? And I actually spent quite a bit of time with that group of heads of school, and we're not going to sort of that kind of a rigorous metric. I suppose one would be we have quarantining space on our campus for both boys and girls. The idea behind a positive test is that we try to get that person off campus because we think it's probably more comfortable to isolate away from campus than it is on campus. So we don't have a hard, fast number. So much depends on the actual circumstances. Was that person positive before they came to school? Did the contact result at Williston? So what we do have, though, are the testing capabilities and also now these tracking capabilities, which are quite sophisticated. And what they're able to do is, as Mr. Korkowski mentioned earlier, is the app that's going to be running says, who is this student, who is this person by, how close were they, and how long were they in contact. So all of these mechanisms that we have, we think give us a very strong chance here. And I also would say that no two schools are the same. So just as the colleges come up with very different plans, what one college does is not necessarily what another college will do. And those decisions are really very local and have to do with the community that we're speaking about. So, we think that as a small boarding school, with a contingent of day families who are all on board and doing their hardest to keep everybody safe, we think we've got as good a chance of getting things open and up and running really as any school. And when I was in my teens, I was on a reading binge of all those kind of explorer books. And I loved all of them, the Everest books. And I remember reading about the Shackleton expedition. And I think the book was called Endurance. And so I Googled it the other day. And I recalled that for Shackleton, he had 4 virtues that he said were paramount to being an explorer. And they were optimism, patience, endurance, and courage. And so I think all 4 of those virtues abound at Williston, and particularly with a dedicated group of senior administrators and staff who've been working tirelessly all summer to present this plan for the return to school to all of you. And as I said earlier in my comments, our plan has been built on 2 rock-solid principles. Those are the safety of all of the members of our community, and then the delivery of our mission-driven education at Williston. And, I hope you've all learned a lot tonight. As always, this has been said before, but reach out to any of us on this Zoom forum tonight and anybody you know at the school with your questions, and then we'll make sure to get you individualized answers. And so with that, thank you all and for sharing your morning or your evening with us. Hope to see you all soon and get this Williston community back up and running, and once again become the incredible place of learning and relationship building and growth that I know distinguishes us. So thanks, everyone.